Okay, so let's start with a super quick revision of the next chapter, that is supply under GST, a very important chapter conceptually, which is going to be used in so many chapters ahead. References are going to be there, and yes, conceptually, so this chapter is very important. First of all, why are we studying this particular chapter? This chapter is going to talk about whether a particular transaction, whether a particular transaction is a supply or not a supply. Okay, ma'am, what do you mean by that? Supply or not a supply? Just keep one small logic in your minds. If there is no supply, okay, if anywhere, if in the particular chapter we study that this particular transaction is not a supply, then you just have to keep in mind that if it is not a supply, okay, if it is not a supply, then there will be no GST liability applicable on it. Okay, not being a supply is different, and then getting exempted is different. Okay, not being a supply, first we have to see whether it is a supply or it is not a supply. Okay, if it is not a supply, forget about it, no GST will be applicable. If it is a supply, then it can so happen that either it can be a taxable supply or there can be an exemption notification for the same. Are you clear with this? Okay, so predominantly, and first of all, we need to understand whether a particular transaction is a supply or not a supply. Okay, we have got important definitions here, which you can just refer it once. Okay, I am going to section number 7, everyone, from where the main chapter starts. Now, section number 7 talks about the concept of supply, and that is the meaning and scope of supply. Now, here specifically, section number 7.1, section number 7.1a, section number 7.2 and section number 7.3. Okay, these are super duper important. Section number 7 here is the most important section. Yes, and whenever I am referring to section number 7 here in any particular section in this particular chapter, then they mean that this refers to the CGST Act. Okay, this refers to the CGST Act. Then ma'am, what about the interstate transactions? Is it not applicable to that? Means what about that? So just let me just tell you that whatever provisions we are studying in relation to supply under section 7 of the CGST Act, the same provisions have been made applicable. Okay, supply provisions have been made applicable to the interstate supply also. So it has been made applicable to the IGST Act also. Yes, chalo. Now let's understand, everyone. Let's start with section. Now this thing is a summary table, as you can see here. Okay, all the provisions have been included here. Now let's start understanding everything here in detail. Okay, first of all, section number 7.1a. Okay, 7.1a normally talks about supply. Means this particular transaction will be considered as a supply. Ma'am, what will be considered as a supply? That is a very broad thing. Okay, everyone, different types of supply that can be sale, that can be transfer, that can be a barter transaction, there can be an exchange transaction, there can be a license transaction, there can be a rental transaction. So sale, transfer, lease, disposal, exchange, barter, etc. Any type of supply. Okay, this is whatever terms I have told you, these are purely illustrative. This is not exhaustive. Okay, any type of sale or any type of transfer, any type of exchange, barter, any such type of transaction which we have done. Okay, which can be of goods also, which can be of any supply of goods or service. Okay, if any such transaction has been done for a consideration. Okay, consideration definition we have already discussed in the main session also, and it is given in your definitional point also. If any such supply has been done for a consideration in return, and which is done in the course or in the furtherance of business, means that should be done not for your personal purpose, that should be done for the business purpose. Okay, 3 parameters to be fulfilled. First of all, there should be supply of goods or service. Okay, then it should be done for a consideration, and it should be done in the course of business. If all the 3 points have been fulfilled, then in such case we can say that transaction, okay, such a transaction will be considered as a supply as per section number 7.1a. Okay, 3 conditions. Can you see this, everyone? Supply of goods or service, plus there should be a consideration, plus it should be in the course of business. We have got so many examples given up here. Okay, now few different points which I should be discussing here in the revision video also. That is about consideration. Okay, first one, let's try to understand for the purpose of consideration. Now, let's talk about a charitable institution, or let's talk about donations received by the charitable institution. Okay, let's say Arpita is there, and then there is a charitable institution. Arpita is donating some amount. Okay, Arpita is donating some amount to the charitable institution out of love, affection, out of that thing. Okay, because I want to do charitable activity, so I donated something to the charitable institution without expecting anything in return. Okay, without expecting anything in return. So in that case, the donation which is received by the charitable institution, okay, donation which is received by the charitable institution without quid pro quo. You must have heard about this term, okay, earlier. Okay, that is without something in return. Then in that case, the amount that is received by the charitable institution will not be considered as a consideration. Are you clear with this? Therefore, whatever amount of donation the charitable institution has received, that will not be liable to GST because there is no consideration involved. Are you understanding this? Okay, another example that I will give you. Let's say there is a company. Okay, let's say there is a company XYZ Limited. XYZ Limited gave some donations to the charitable institution. Okay, and in return, the charitable institution has put a hoarding, or it has written somewhere, in the office of the charitable trust, or maybe near the benches it is written that this was donated by XYZ Limited, a company which is engaged into let's say manufacturing of textiles. Something like that is written. Means, can we say in return, charitable institution is kind of doing an advertisement for this? Yes. So can we say there is something in return? If there is something in return, then yes, this will be called as a consideration, and this transaction will be chargeable to GST. Are you able to understand this? Yes, that is the first point which I wanted to discuss. Examples have been given, multiple example, n number of examples for every point is given in your book. That's the best part. Yes, then the next one. See what is this next thing. Next one is, let's say I am an artist. Okay, I am an art artist, let's say, and I have made some paintings, etc., and I want to send these paintings to some art gallery where it is going to be shown for the purpose of exhibitions, etc. Okay, so art gallery person told me, okay, Arpita madam, you can send the whatever paintings, etc., and if any customer likes it during exhibition, we will sell it and we will remit the consideration to you after deducting our charges, etc. I said, okay, fine, no problem. Now the question arises here. When I am sending my art items to that particular gallery, at that time, will it be considered as a supply, or it will not be considered as a supply? I am doing it in the course of my business. Yes, there is a supply, yes, there is a sale, or there is a transfer of that particular paintings, etc. Yes, but am I going to receive the consideration now, or is it fixed that I am going to receive the consideration? Answer is no, because there is no consideration that is flowing from that art gallery to the artist. Okay, I will receive. When will I receive this? Okay, when will I receive the consideration? I will receive the consideration only if it is sold. So this transaction, even if I have physically sent my paintings to that particular gallery, still it will not be considered. As a supply. Right? So ma'am, how can you send it? Like, there should be some supporting document, na? If you're sending the goods, I can say, goods from your premises. Yes, you can use a delivery challan, right? You can use the delivery challan along with the e-bill and you can send it, but this will now not be considered as a supply. Only when this particular transaction materializes, only when there is a customer ready to take my particular product, then only this will be considered as a supply. Are you clear with this, everyone? Yes, and yes, so in this section number 7.1a3 parameters, where the supply of goods or services, there should be a consideration for that, and the next one, it should be in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, business definition is also given in the beginning of the chapter. So if all the 3 points are fulfilled, okay, this is a very broad point. Everything, basically what are they trying to tell here is everything here. Every supply of goods or services done for a consideration in the course or furtherance of business, this will be considered as a supply. Okay, exceptions, etc., we are yet to do. Chalo. Then going on to the next point. Next point is also an inclusion point. Inclusion point means it will be considered as a supply. That is section number 71AA. Okay, as of now, just go on understanding. Then I will show you a summary chart of the section number 7, with the help of which you will be able to recollect each and every point. Okay, section 71AA. What do you mean? What is given in this particular section number 71AA? Any such transaction, okay, any such activity or any such transaction which is done by a person other than an individual, okay, which is done by a person other than its individual, with its members or to its members or its constituents. Okay, to its members we can say it like that, or vice versa. That is any transaction done by the members, okay, for any particular association, any particular transaction done by the members with its entity. Are you clear with this? Yes. So, definitely for a consideration, and yes, in the course of business, then in such a case, even such transactions will be considered as a supply. Okay, ma'am, can you give an example for that? Yes, you must have heard about cooperative housing societies. Okay, cooperative housing society is providing some services to its members at a concessional price. Okay, or cooperative society is selling some product to its members. Cooperative society, housing society is a particular entity and its members are separate entity. First, you need to understand that cooperative society is one particular person and its members are another person. Now, whenever any particular transaction takes place between these two persons, okay, any particular transaction takes place between these two persons, then you cannot say that these are the members of the same entity now. Even if these people are the members of the same residential entity, then too these will be considered as two separate persons, and that will be considered as if the transaction is taking between two different persons. And yes, now again, there is a supply of goods or service, okay, for which there is a consideration that is going to be paid and which is done in the course of business. Then in that case, even such transaction will be considered as a supply. Are you able to understand this? Yes. Now let's say just for example, a member of a housing society, okay, or a member of a joint venture. You must have heard about joint venture. A member of a joint venture is giving a plant and machinery on hire to the joint venture. Okay, you cannot say that I have given it to my own entity. No. Okay, even if you say that for the purpose of GST, that joint venture and that partner in the joint venture, or that joint venture and the member of the joint venture will be considered as two separate persons, and whenever this type of transaction takes place between the joint venture and its members, okay, then in that case it will be still considered as a supply. Okay, so ma'am, what was the need to mention this point separately? The need here arose because before this it was considered, it was assumed that if any transaction takes place, like between a association and its members, or between a joint venture and its members, etc., then they were telling that we are doing transaction with ourselves. Okay, we are doing transaction with ourselves, therefore there will be no GST. So they clarified that no, that joint venture entity and that member, both of them are different persons, and therefore there will be GST applicable on it. Are you able to understand this? Yes. Then going on to the next section, that is section number 71B, important. Okay, section number 71B is important. See what is this particular, this is one of the exceptional point. Okay, section 71B says that if you are importing any services, importing means we are taking any services from a place outside India, outside our taxable territory, okay, where we have paid the consideration. Okay, I am taking some services, let's say I am taking some IT services, or let's say I am taking some architect services from a place outside India, for which I am paying the consideration also. Can we say there is a supply? Yes, there is a supply for which there is a consideration involved. But ma'am, then what is the exceptional point? Exceptional point is whether or not in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, what did we study in the earlier 2 points? Now, what was happening? Whatever transaction we were doing in the course of business only. Okay, but the transaction which is mentioned in section number 71B, this transaction, if you have imported only services, are not goods. If you have imported any services for which you have paid the consideration, but it can be for personal use also, or it can be for business use also. Then in such case, still this, even if it is for personal purpose, then too it will be considered as a supply. Okay, very simple example. I wanted to get my house ka interior decoration done. Okay, for which I took the services of an architect from outside India. Now, a home is for the personal use, then whatever amount I have now, whatever transaction I have entered into with this particular architect, this will be considered as a supply. Are you clear with this? Okay, can we say this is exception to 7.1a? Because in 7.1a we studied that if there is any supply of service for which there is a consideration or not, but it should be done in the course of business. But here they are telling that no. Let's exclude one particular point, that if I have imported any services, be it for personal purpose or be it for business purpose, then too it will be considered as a supply. Are you clear till here? Yes. Then after that, section number 7.1c. Okay, 7.1c is again important. 7.1c talks about activities without consideration. Okay, again exception. What was common in all the points that we have done till now? In all the points done till now, consideration was mandatory. That is, there should be some consideration involved. Now here we are studying second exception. Next exception, that is the next set of transactions which will be done without consideration, but still it will be considered as a supply. Very clear with this? Yes. Now in that C, now these transactions deemed supply, okay, means there is going to be a supply of goods or services where there will be no consideration involved, means there is going to be a supply but nothing in return, but yes, it will be done in the course of business. Let's try to identify, let's try to understand what were the four transactions there in this. Now, these transactions are mentioned in your schedule number 1. Okay, schedule number 1 to the CGST Act. In that para 1, if there is any permanent transfer or disposal of business assets. Okay, if we are transferring, if we are selling any particular business assets permanently, where input tax credit was already claimed on it, means when we had purchased, okay, when we had purchased that particular capital asset, we took input tax credit because we would have paid taxes on it. We took the benefit of that, we took the credit of the same, but now we are selling it off. Okay, if you are selling it off and even if it is sold, okay, even if it is sold for zero consideration, even if it is sold for zero consideration, means I have given it for free to someone. Okay, example, holding company transferring it to subsidiary company. I am transferring to any other person for zero consideration. Then too this will be considered. Okay, provided ITC was taken on it. Okay, provided ITC was taken on it, then too it will be considered as a supply. And if it was considered as a supply, then can we say there will be GST applicable on it? Ma'am, why so? Because you have already taken the tax benefit on it. Right? If you have already taken the input tax credit at the time of purchase, so can we say at the time of sale there should be GST applicable on the same? Yes. Okay, please remember this point, provided ITC was taken on the same. Next point was para number 2 to schedule number 1, that is supply, same, supply of goods or services. Again, supply of goods or services for no consideration. Okay, when this transaction is between related persons, okay, when this transaction is between me and my related persons, or if this transaction is between distinct persons. Two terms to be remembered here, when the transaction is between related persons or when the transaction is between distinct persons, but obviously the transaction is done for zero consideration, no consideration, and if the transaction is done in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, the common thing here is in whatever transactions we are going to study here, there will be no consideration involved, but it will be done in the course of business. Okay, related party transactions or related person transactions are given up here. Okay, now let's say if there are two partners in a partnership firm. Okay, if there are two partners in a partnership firm, then the partners are called as related persons. Employer, employee are called as related persons. Okay, if there is a third person who is holding at least 25% voting power in two of the entities, then these two entities or these two companies will be called as related person. A third person is controlling both of them, then these both of them will be called as related person. Same family members, okay, same family members will be called as a related person. One of them is influencing or one of them is controlling the other, then in that case these persons will be called as related persons. So if the transaction, let's say if there is a transaction between employer and employee, okay, let's say there is a transaction between employer and employee, then we'll say that this transaction is done between related persons. And if it is done between related persons, now listen, see the logic of introducing. If it is done between related persons, can the prices be fluctuated or can the prices be trigged or can we influence the prices? Yes, so they are telling even if you have done it for free, okay, then too this will be called as a supply. Are you clear with this? Yes. And another thing, have you heard about soul selling agent? Okay, like in businesses, I am the principal, and then I have appointed an agent to do these particular transactions. So even principal, agent, these two are called as related persons. Okay, so if the transaction is done between related persons, or if the transaction is done between distinct persons. Now what do you mean by distinct persons? Okay, just try to understand what do you mean by distinct persons. Now, we'll study more about this when we do the registration chapter, but we should be knowing that we have already studied also that GST is a PAN based registration. Okay, one PAN. Let's say I am a particular individual and I have my PAN and I want to get registered under GST. Okay, so on the basis of my PAN, I will be given a GST number. Okay, I will be given a GST registration. Now, can there be a possibility that like my head office or my first office is in Mumbai, Maharashtra, and now I wish to open a branch in Gujarat? Possible? Then in that case, can I say entity is the same? So PAN will be one only. Okay, but now since the state is changing, since the state of the branch is changing, then in that case, can I say we'll have to take separate registration for that particular state? Okay, for that Gujarat branch, I will have to take another GST registration, but that will be linked to the same PAN. So one PAN and multiple GST registration we are talking about. Yes, if this has happened, okay, if this has happened, let's say one office is in Maharashtra, one office is in Gujarat, then these two entities are having two separate registrations. Then in that case, if there is any transaction, stock related transactions between two branches, if any type of transaction happens between these two branches, then in that case it will be considered as then this particular branch will be considered as a distinct person, and any transaction happening between these two persons will be considered as a supply. Are you clear with this? Acha, then one more example. Can there be a possibility that I am here in Maharashtra? Okay, I am engaged into supply of this AC remotes. I have another office. Okay, I have another office which I have started in, let's say, Madhya Pradesh. Okay, let's say Madhya Pradesh. And in Madhya Pradesh, from that particular office, I am doing supply of alcoholic liquor. Possible? Now, if I am doing supply of alcoholic liquor from there, alcoholic liquor is totally outside the purview of GST. So, I am not liable, right? When I am not liable to take the registration of that particular branch. Okay, because there is a non-taxable supply that is happening from there. So, in such a case, Still, can there be some transaction between Mumbai branch or Maharashtra branch and that Madhya Pradesh branch? Yes. So in that case, even if that entity is a unregistered entity under GST, still that will be called as establishment of distinct persons. Okay, and any transaction between establishment of distinct persons, even if it is done without consideration, it will be considered as a supply. Okay, now let's say I have one of my branches here in Mumbai, Maharashtra. Okay, one of my offices in Mumbai, Maharashtra, and I plan to start one more office in Pune, Maharashtra. Okay, within the same state. Now, if you are opening one more office within the same state, you are not mandatorily required to obtain a registration for that. Separate registration is required when you go in another state. Okay, but if you are there within the same state and if you open another office in the same state, then normally separate registration is not required. But still, if I want to take a separate registration, can we take? Answer is yes. Okay, if you have taken separate registration within the same state, okay, then in such a case, any transaction between Mumbai branch and any transaction between Pune branch, even that will be considered as coming under this particular Schedule 1 transaction, and even if it is done without any consideration, then too, there will be this transaction will be called as a supply. Are you clear with this, everyone? Yes. Okay. So, conclusion of para 2 to schedule number 1 is, if there is any transaction, if there is any supply of goods or services between related persons or between distinct persons or between establishment of distinct persons, then in that, and if it is done in the course of business, etc., then in that case, yes, it will be considered as a supply. Okay. Now, in this, some special points to be discussed here is, what did we discuss about employer and employee? What did I tell you about employer and employee? For employer and employee, those two persons are considered as related persons. Therefore, if there is any supply of goods or services between employer and employee, then that will not be liable. Okay, then in that case, it should be liable to GST because those two persons are related persons, even if it is given free. Okay, even if there is no consideration involved, that will be considered as a supply. But we will study further in schedule number 3. Okay, we'll study now, just like we're doing schedule number 1, we'll study some negative list item in schedule number 3 where employer and employee are included in the negative list. Okay, so schedule 1 told that if there is any transaction between employer and employee, that will be liable to GST. But schedule 3 says that no, remove employer and employee transactions from the purview of supply. Okay, so conclusion, where is my pen? Conclusion here is, if there is any supply of goods or services between an employer and employee, as per schedule 1 it was considered as a supply, but the conclusion is schedule 3 is going to be applicable, therefore it is not liable to supply. Okay, but exception, okay, exception to that. Now, can there be a possibility that there is a gift given by the employer to the employee? Okay, if the value of gifts are up to rupees 50,000 in value, okay, if the value of goods is equal to rupees 50,000 in value in a particular financial year given by an employer to the employee. Now, gifts are given for no consideration. Okay, gift is given by employer to the employee. Then normally, just now what we studied, okay, just now what we studied was any transaction between employer and employee will not be considered as a supply. Okay, but specifically they have told you for gifts, any gifts given by employer to employee will be taxable under GST. But if the gift's value does not exceed rupees 50,000 in a year, then it will not be considered as a supply. So they are telling that small gift given by employer to employee is not considered as a supply. Apart from that, if the aggregate value of gifts given by an employer to an employee in a year, if that exceeds rupees 50,000, then the entire amount, okay, then the entire amount will be liable for GST because it will now be considered as a supply. Okay, now perquisites. What about perquisites? Can we say, you must have heard about perquisites, right? Perquisites given by the employer to the employee. Can we say this is done as per the contractual agreement signed between the employer and employee? This is because the services are being rendered by the employee to the employer, right? So this is just like this will be just like a transaction covered under schedule number 3. Therefore there will be no GST applicable on the same. Are you clear till here? Okay, so we are there under, okay, don't forget the link. We are there under schedule 1. Okay, schedule 1, there is some supply of goods or services done in the course of business, but there is no consideration involved. Still it is deemed as supply. Okay, in that first point, the first point that we did was permanent disposal or transfer of business assets on which input tax credit, okay, on which input tax credit has been already claimed, then in that case that will be considered as a supply. Okay, don't forget the word business assets. Then after that we went to para number 2. What did we study? There was any supply of goods or services that was done between related persons or between distinct persons or establishment of distinct persons, then too it will be considered as a supply. Exception was employer and employee. But in case of gifts given by employer to the employee up to 50,000, not a supply. More than 50,000, entire amount will be considered as a supply. Okay, and then there was a small circular introduced here. Now, if there is a person called as original equipment manufacturer, okay, let's take the example of Samsung. Okay, just an example. Original equipment manufacturer is there who is manufacturing mobile phones, tabs, etc. Okay, it wants to get a particular component of that particular mobile phone manufactured. Okay, so it gives the work to a person called as component manufacturer. Okay, component manufacturer in China, let's say for example, and this component manufacturer will manufacture that part and give it to the original equipment manufacturer. Okay, so now in this case component manufacturer said that, sir, I need a mold for the size, that what size or what specification of component should I be making. So some free molds, okay, dhacha, what we call in Hindi, okay, that sancha, dhacha, whatever you want to call it. Okay, if that mold is given by the original equipment manufacturer to the component manufacturer, that was given by OEM to the component manufacturer free of cost. Okay, we just sent it to the component manufacturer so that he can understand the size, dimensions, etc. from it. Okay, now can we say there is a supply? Okay, there is a supply that was sent free of cost. There is no consideration or not. But are these two persons related persons? Answer is no. If these two persons are not related persons, okay, if these two persons are not related person, can we say this is not considered as a supply? Yes, because if the transaction is done between related person without consideration, then only it is considered as a supply. Right. So can we say, as per section number 7(1)(a), the point of consideration is missing. And if the point of consideration is missing, then in such a case, it will not be considered as a supply. Okay, please remember this, because this OEM and component manufacturer, we are going to use it multiple times. Okay, we are going to use it multiple times ahead in our indirect taxes. Are you clear till here, everyone? Yes, okay. Then going on to the next one, that is para 3 to schedule number 1. Okay, third point, para 3 to schedule number 1. If there is, remember I just told you about principal and agent point there. Yes, what did we study for principal and agent? Principal and agent was considered as what? Principal and agent were considered as sole selling agent, etc. was considered as the related person. Okay, now I am talking about an agent. Okay, now let's say, everyone, just try to understand. Okay, I am A, you are B. Okay, let's assume it that way. I am A, you are B. Okay, I have appointed, I am generally involved in selling goods. Okay, I sell the goods, I manufacture the goods and I sell the goods. I am involved in selling the goods. Now I appointed a person called as agent. Okay, I appointed a person called as Mr. Agent. I told him that I am manufacturing goods in very good quantity. You please find the buyers for me. He said, okay sir, I will do that work. He is acting as an agent. Okay. Now in this case, he is such an agent. Okay, we have already discussed in the main lectures. I'm just repeating it here. He is such an agent who is going to, okay, if let's say he finds you, okay, you are the prospective buyer, he finds you. Okay, means can I say he's helping me to identify a customer? Yes, and he's such an agent who is going to sell the goods to you on his own account. Okay, he is going to sell the goods to you on his own account. Means what? He will purchase the goods from me. Okay, then he will sell the goods to you. He is not telling me that, Arpita, Mr. B is the buyer, you directly sell the goods to him. He is not acting merely as a commission agent. Okay, he's taking all the risk, he's taking all the liabilities on him, and then he's transferring the goods to you, he's selling the goods to you. And invoice also. Okay, invoice also will be issued by him only. Means first Arpita will sell it to the agent and then agent will sell it to Mr. B. Okay, if he is such an agent, okay, then only he is going to come under this para number 3 to schedule 1. Okay, then only he is going to come under para 3 to schedule 1. And if there is any supply, okay, if there is any supply of goods by a principal to his agent, okay, or by an agent to his principal, means I am purchasing from my agent. Okay, then in such a case, if there is any transaction, even if it is done for no consideration, okay, even if it is done for no consideration, it is done in the course of business, then too it will be considered as a supply. Are you clear with this? Yes, okay, but listen, again I am telling you, if he is such a agent who is not issuing the invoice in his names, okay, who is not, the title is not getting transferred in the name of agent, then he is not falling under para 3 to schedule number 1. Very clear with this? Yes, okay. Then after that, going to the next last point, that is para 4 to schedule number 1. Okay, last point but important point. Para number 4 to schedule number 1 talks about importation of services. Did we just study something about importation of services? Yes, what did we study about importation of services? We studied that if we are importing, that we studied in deemed supply 7(1)(b), right? If we are importing any services for which we are paying the consideration, whether or not in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, now here in para number 4, we are importing some services for no consideration. Okay, clear bifurcation you have got there. In 7(1)(b), it was considered as a supply as it involved consideration. Now here there is no consideration involved. and the person from whom you are importing the services, that person is my related person. Okay, importing means from outside India, means I am importing it from my related person or from my other establishment outside India. Okay, my other establishment outside India, from them if I am importing any services which I am going to use it in the course or furtherance of business for no consideration, then in such a case it will still be considered. Okay, it will still be considered as a supply. Are you clear with this? Okay, let's say I wanted to get the interior decoration of my office done. I wanted to get the interior decoration of my office done, for which I took architect services from my related person who is located outside India, for which I did not pay any consideration. Can we say if that person is my related person situated outside India from whom I have imported any particular services which I am going to use it in the course or furtherance of business, even if the consideration paid was zero, then too this will be considered as a deemed supply. Are you clear with this? So ma'am, what's the difference? There also it was considered as a supply, here also it is considered as a supply. Arey baba, there it was with consideration. Okay, there it was with consideration for any particular purpose, then it was considered as a supply. Here, you are importing some services for which you are not paying any consideration, but it is imported from a related person or your other establishment from outside India, then too it will be considered as a deemed supply. Okay, if I am importing it from any unrelated person for zero consideration, then it is not a supply. Are you clear with this? Yes, see, everyone here, conclusion. Import of services with consideration. With consideration means, can we say we are talking about section number 7(1)(b)? Okay, it can be for personal purpose or it can be for business purpose. It was considered as a supply. Okay, but if I am importing it without consideration means we are talking about schedule number 1. Okay, I am importing it without consideration, and if it is received from a related person or my distinct person from outside India in the course of business, then it will be considered as a supply. Okay, if I am receiving it from any other person, then it will not be considered as a supply. Are you clear till here, everyone? Yes, are you clear till here? Now listen, few clarifications which are given up here. Now here they have told about some promotional schemes, okay, some sales promotion schemes or different schemes which are taken out by the companies nowadays to attract the customers. Now I'm just asking you, everyone here, free samples and gift. Now let's say I gave free sample. Okay, I gave free sample of my product to any particular person free of cost. Okay, to any particular person free of cost. Can I say if I am giving it to my customers who are unrelated person free of cost, then can I say it will not be considered as a supply? Yes. Then next one, okay, you must have heard about BOGO offers, buy one get one free, etc. Okay, if you buy one AC remote, then you will get one more AC remote free. Okay, it looks free, but it is not actually free. Okay, whatever one amount that you pay or amount that you pay for that one AC remote, it actually consists the amount for the other AC remote also. Okay, so in that case, so in this particular case, there is a consideration involved. Okay, whatever price you have paid for one AC remote, that is actually the consideration for two AC remotes. So here nothing is free. Okay, if nothing is free, then this transaction is normally called as supply. Are you clear with this? Yes, this was all about your schedule number 1. Schedule number 1 was talking about deemed supply. 4 pointers coming under schedule number 1. I am again repeating. First one, permanent transfer or disposal of business assets on which ITC has been claimed. Okay, second one was any supply of goods or services between related persons or distinct persons in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, and yes, one more thing, all the 4 points that we are going to discuss here, this is without consideration. Okay, still it is considered as a supply. Third point was supply of goods by principal to his agent or by agent to his principal. That particular agent who was selling or purchasing the goods on his own behalf, okay, on his own account, then in that case such supply, even if it is done for no consideration, it will be considered as a supply. And the last one was importation of services, no consideration, in the course of business, imported from my related persons or my distinct persons, then it will be considered as a supply. Are you clear till here? Yes. Then after that, going on to the next point. Next section is very, very simple. Section number 7.1a. 7.1a talks about classification of transaction into supply of goods or supply of services. Okay, now we know that it is a supply. Now we need to just bifurcate that whether it is supply of goods or whether it is supply of services. Are you clear till here, everyone? Can we start with section number 7.1a? Yes, and yes, one more thing, 7.1a, whatever transactions we are going to study here, those are listed in schedule number 2. Okay, what was schedule number 1? Schedule number 1 was nothing but your deemed supply. Okay, even if it is done without consideration, in the course or furtherance of business, it will be considered as a supply. But in schedule number 2, we are not going to ascertain whether it is a supply or not a supply. It is already ascertained that it is a supply. You just need to bifurcate whether it is supply of goods or whether it is supply of services. Very clear till here? Now, the most important thing is, ma'am, what is the requirement? What is the requirement of the schedule number 2? Okay, requirement of schedule number 2 actually came from the earlier laws. In earlier laws, what used to happen was there were some things, not all, but there were some such transactions which were not classified, whether it is supply of goods or whether it is supply of services. And then there was VAT also applicable on it, and then there was service tax also applicable on it. Okay, one of the example which I had mentioned earlier also was your restaurant service. Okay, on that VAT was also applicable plus service was also applicable. Now they have done the proper classification so that it is not taxed twice. Right? Chalo, theek hai. Now let's go to schedule number 2. Everyone here. Now first transaction. Okay, I am doing it from the notes here so that it will be simple. Now whenever there is any transfer of title in the goods, sale. Okay, when the title is getting transferred, then it will be considered as supply of goods, normal sale of goods. Okay, whenever there is any transfer of right in the goods, means I am giving the right to someone to use it, let's say for example, then it will be called as supply of service. Example, renting kind of a thing. Okay, then after that, whenever there is any transfer of title in the goods, maybe the property in the goods will pass on at a future date. Example, you must have heard about hire purchase transactions, right? Where the title in the property passes at the time when the final installment is paid. Then too it will be considered as, okay, hire purchase, etc. Then too it will be considered as supply of goods, because ultimately it is not like renting, it is just like sale. Then second one, very, very important. This is para number 2. Okay, this is para number 2, land and building. Okay, any lease. Now you should be able to give me the answer. You just have to identify whether it is goods or services. Okay, any lease, tenancy, easement, license to occupy land, etc. Then it will be considered as supply of services. Then treatment or process, if there is any job work, any labor activity going. Okay, let's say this is the AC remote, I have given it to someone for repairing of it, etc. It will be called as supply of services. The next one, see the words. From the words itself you should be able to identify. Transfer of business assets. Please don't by heart this, okay, just go on understanding it. Transfer of business assets. Transfer means that is going to be a permanent transfer where the title is also going to go. So this will be called as supply of goods. Then goods held, everyone here, goods held or used for business. I have some goods for my business which are put to personal use. Just put to personal use. I am not selling it. I am using it for personal purpose. Example, a company giving a car. Okay, a company giving a car to its employees for their personal use. Then this will be called as supply of service. Okay, the next one, goods forming part of assets of any business carried on by a person who ceases to be a taxable person. Okay, now let's say I have a particular, not I, okay, Mr. X have a particular business. He has some assets. Okay, he has some assets in his business. Now he is going to wind up. Okay, now he is going to wind up. So can I say whatever stock or whatever goods are left with him ultimately, which is going to be disposed of, then that will be called, that particular transaction will be called as supply of goods. Okay, then the next one, renting of immovable property. As the name suggests, it is going to be supply of services. Yes, one important point to be covered up here is, in case of renting of immovable property, there is something called as tenancy rights. Okay, there is something called as tenancy rights. Now let's say there is a owner. Okay, there is a owner of a particular house or a commercial property, let's say anything. Okay, and I am the tenant. I have been staying on rent with this particular person. Okay, I have got some special, one is I am occupying this particular property, so I'm paying rent for it. Okay, now I have got some special rights from him, okay, to use the property in a particular manner, etc., for which he has charged tenancy premium from me. Okay, for which he has charged tenancy premium for me, which is over and above the rent. So they are telling that this tenancy premium is also going to come under GST. Okay, now let's say I was the tenant. Okay, I am vacating this particular premises and I am going to give you on rent. Means after me you are going to come and stay here on rent. I am also transferring. See, rent you are going to pay to the owner. Okay, I am also transferring the tenancy rights to you. I am transferring the tenancy rights that, see, I had got these tenancy rights from the owner. Now I am giving it to you. You have to pay me 5 lakh rupees for the same. So this 5 lakh is not a rent, but still it will be liable to GST because it was clarified. Okay, because it was clarified by way of this particular circular that tenancy premium is also liable to GST. Very clear with this? Okay, then construction of complex buildings, civil structures, etc. Okay, construction includes your additions, alterations, replacements, revamping, remodeling of an existing structure, etc. If you are getting this construction done, okay, if you're getting this construction done, then this is called as this, if you're providing this construction services, then this is called as supply of services. But one thing is very, very important here is except where the entire consideration has been received after issuance of completion certificate or after its first occupation, whichever is earlier. Okay, means what are they trying to say? Construction service will be called as supply of service, means there will be a GST applicable on such construction service. But if we have done the construction and we have got the entire consideration after receiving the CC, okay, after receiving the CC or after the first person came and occupied that property, out of these two whichever is earlier, then in that case that transaction is not at all liable to GST. That we are going to study in schedule number 3 now. Are you able to understand this? Yes. Now, this completion certificate is issued by whom? This completion certificate is normally issued by the competent authority. Competent authority is who? Competent authority is any authority or any government which is authorized to issue this completion certificate. And when it is not mandatory to take it from the government, then this completion certificate can be given by a certified or a registered architect or a chartered engineer or a licensed surveyor. Okay, if government is required to give in a particular state, then only CC has to be given only by the government. But if it is not mandatorily to be given by the government, then in that case it can be given by any of these persons. Okay, so if entire consideration is received, after this CC, means we can, in short, we can say that when the entire consideration is received, once the property got ready, then in that case there is no GST applicable on it. Okay, then you cannot call it as a supply of goods or supply of services. Understanding this? But if some consideration was received before, some consideration was received after, or entire consideration was received before, then it will be called as supply of service. Okay, then after that, next one, temporary transfer or permitting use or enjoyment of any intellectual property. I have given my patent to someone else to use it. It is supply of service. Okay, then any particular person is developing some software, etc. for me. Again, it is supply of service. Okay, next important point, everyone here, next important point, agreeing to obligation to refrain from an act. That is, someone is telling me, Arpita, don't do this. If you don't do this, I will pay you this much amount. Okay, or to tolerate an act or situation. I am tolerating a particular act for which I am going to get a consideration. Okay, or to do an act. Arpita, do this act, will give you this much amount. Okay, if any such type of services are being provided, then in that case it will be considered as supply of service. Okay, one example. You must have heard about just like monopoly kind of a thing. Okay, if there are two service providers in a particular, let's say there are two internet service providers in a particular area. Okay, and this area is mine. I tell to the internet service provider, I'll pay you 10 lakh rupees, but you cannot provide services to my area's customer. Okay, can he say he's refraining from an act? Okay, he's refraining from selling this thing. So in that case, whatever consideration I pay him, okay, on that GST will be applicable. Okay, but yes, there was a circular. Okay, there was a circular in this regard. What about GST on liquidated damages? Okay, in a contract, if there are any damages which have been suffered, what about the GST on that? What about the GST on compensation and penalty arising out of breach of contract or other provisions of the law? So they are telling that, let's say we two have entered into a particular contract, and we have specifically entered into an agreement that if there is a breach of contract from either of the parties, okay, from either of the parties, then the other party is going to compensate the first party with so and so amount. Means specifically it has been agreed. There is an independent agreement for that. There is a promise that if there is a breach, then so much amount of consideration will flow. Okay, if all these conditions are fulfilled, then in that case, yes, it will be considered as a supply. Are you clear with this? Yes, and for that we have got some examples, etc. also coming up there. Then next one, transfer of right to use any goods. Transfer of right to use any goods. Example, I have given my plant and machinery on hire to someone. Again, it will be considered as supply of service. This is common point. This column is common. Can you see this? Yes, it is considered as supply of services. Then after that, the next one. Yes, sixth one, again very, very important. The 2 points which created havoc in your VAT and service tax. Works contract supplies. First of all, works contract supply. What do you mean by works contract? Works contract is such a contract. Okay, generally this term is used in the context of building, construction, etc. Where, okay, building, construction, etc. of an immovable property, specifically. Construction of an immovable property where goods as well as services are involved. Okay, where goods as well as services are involved. So there is always a confusion whether it will be considered as supply of goods or whether it will be considered as supply of services. Now schedule 2 says that you have to deem, okay, you have to assume that it is a supply of service. Okay, then after that, restaurant and outdoor catering services. This I had just mentioned in the beginning of this particular schedule. This also they have deemed that this is considered as supply of service. Are you clear with this? Yes. So points to be remembered here. Okay, points to be remembered here. Works contract, restaurant, you have to compulsorily remember. Okay, then this circular about liquidated damages. These 3 points are to be remembered mandatorily. We have taken so many examples when we had done our normal lectures. Okay, then after that, the next point to be remembered here is this construction. Okay, normal construction services provided where the entire consideration is received after. Okay, if the entire consideration is received after, it is totally outside the purview of GST. Okay, if entire is received before or if some before, some after, then this will be considered, then GST will be applicable and it will be considered a supply of services. Clear till here? Yes. Okay, last part of section number 7, second last part of section number 7. Now here we are talking about schedule number 3. Okay, what was schedule number 1? Schedule number 1 was talking about deemed supply. That is, even if there was no consideration involved, then too it was considered as a supply. Schedule number 2 just gave us a bifurcation whether it is supply of goods or whether it is supply of services. And schedule number 3 says that whatever points we are going to study below, these are considered as non-supplies. Okay, what do you mean by non-supplies? Non-supplies means it is not considered as a supply, and if it is not considered as a supply, then in that case there will be no GST applicable. That is divided into 3 parts. Okay, first one, transaction specifically given in schedule number 3. Okay, can you recollect one of the pointers that we had done in schedule number 3? One of the pointers that we did in schedule number 3, what was that? Employer and employee. Yes. Okay, even though they are related person, as per schedule 1 it will be considered as a supply, but schedule number 3 comes and says that this is not considered as a supply. So there will be some supplies given here. Then after that, there will be some non-supplies notified by way of a notification and some non-supplies clarified by way of a clarification. Yes. Now let's start with schedule number 3. First one, services given by an employee to the employer. Okay, services given by an employee to the employer in the course of his employment. Normally, employee gives services to the employer, and for that employer pays salary to the employee. Okay, they are telling that this does not amount to supply. Okay, this does not amount to supply. And can we also recollect along with that, perquisites given by the employer to the employee is also in the form of consideration, because that was agreed as per the agreement. So even that was not considered as a supply. What about gifts? Gifts up to 50,000, not a supply, but gifts exceeding rupees 50,000 totally will be considered as a supply. Are you clear with this? Yes. Acha. Then now what if director is there, director of a company is there, he is providing some services to the company and company pays him director's remuneration. Okay, now in this case, if the remuneration paid by the company to the director, if it is in the nature of salary, that is TDS is getting deducted under section 192, that is TDS on salary, means it is employer-employee relationship, so this will not be considered, this will not be liable to GST. Okay, but if the director is providing the services to the employer in professional capacity, okay, in professional capacity, that is TDS is getting deducted under 194 JTDS and professional fees, then in that case there is no employer-employee relationship and therefore it will be liable for GST. Understanding this? Okay, so first one was services provided by employee to the employer. Next one is again important, simple. Services provided by any court or any tribunal established under any law for the time being in force. Okay, any law for the time being in force. Now, what is the relevance of time being in force? Time being in force means we are talking only about the Indian laws. Okay, we are talking only about the Indian law. So, services provided by any court or any tribunal. Now, this court or tribunal means what? A district court is providing. What services do the court or tribunal provides? They take court fees from us and they give judgments, no? They give decisions, etc. So, whatever court fee we paid to the court or whatever fees we paid to them, that is not liable for GST. Okay, now what all courts or what all forums will be included here? Just like I am giving you some example, district court, then your session courts, then your special courts, then your high court, supreme court, etc. they will be included. Then you must have heard about consumer forums, okay, consumer dispute redressal commission, etc. These are also just like courts, right? These are also just like courts. So even any services provided by them, okay, any services provided by them will not be liable to GST. Are you clear with this? Yes. Then the third point, which is non-supply. Okay, third point, which is non-supply, very simple pointer here. Functions performed by member of parliament, MPs. You must have heard, na? MPs, MLAs, people who are sitting in the parliament, okay, they attend the sessions, they attend the parliament meetings, etc. They are performing some functions for which they get paid. Okay, so any functions performed by member of parliament, member of state legislature, member of municipalities, member of other local authority, they say that they are doing work for the public. So any functions performed by them, that is considered as a non-supply, therefore there will be no GST on it. And similarly, duties performed by any person who holds any post in pursuance of provisions of the constitution. Example, if constitution says that India should be having a president, a vice president, and so on. So can we say the president of India is also performing some duty for us or for India, vice president, etc., etc. These people, okay, chairman of the UPSC, okay, then your president, vice president, then your prime minister. Yes, all these people, whatever duties they are performing, they are getting the money for the same, they are getting some consideration for the same, on which there is no GST applicable. And third point in that, duty performed by any person as a chairperson or members or a director, as a chairperson, as a member or as a director in a body established by central government, state government or local authority. Example, you must have heard about SEBI. Yes, so there is a chairman of SEBI, there are members of SEBI, okay, there is a director of SEBI. Just SEBI is just one example of one particular establishment formed by the central government. Okay, so these people are also discharging their functions, so they will be getting reimbursed or they will be getting compensated for the duties they are performing. That is considered as not a supply, therefore there will be no GST applicable on the same, right? Next one, services of funeral, burial, crematorium or mortuary, including transportation of the deceased person. So the people who provide the funeral services, burial services, crematorium services, or even the ambulances. Let's say, for example, ambulances which are helping in providing the transportation of the deceased persons, etc. They charge money from us, but that is not liable for GST. Next para, point number 5. Okay, para number 5, very important. Para number 5 to which schedule are we doing? Para number 5 to our schedule number 3. Sale of land. Okay, sale of land is neither supply of goods nor supply of services. Forget about land. There will be no GST applicable on sale of land. And similarly, for sale of building. Okay, for sale of building. sale of land, and subject to para number 5B of schedule 2, sale of building. Now, do you recollect in schedule number 2, we just now studied about that construction services. Okay, let's say there is a construction of building. Okay, let's say there is a construction of building for which entire consideration was received after issue of completion certificate or first occupation, whichever is earlier. Then in that case, I told you there will be no GST applicable. That is no GST applicable as per para number 5 of schedule number 3. Are you clear with this? Yes. So one thing to be remembered here, everyone. First thing to be remembered here is sale of land does not attract GST. Okay. Another thing is, in case of sale of building, if entire consideration is received afterwards, okay, then in that case there is no GST applicable on the same. Okay, sometimes it can so happen that there is a piece of land. Okay, there is a piece of land, and on that particular land, before selling it to someone else, you have laid down some water lines, drainage pipelines, etc., electricity lines, etc., and then means you have developed the land and then you have sold it. Okay, you have developed the land, then you have sold it. Then even the sale of such developed land does not attract GST. Means if you sell a barren land or if you sell a developed land, there will be no GST applicable on it. Yes, but can I say you must have taken services from someone? You must have taken some services from someone for developing that land. He can charge GST from you because he is not selling the land. Are you clear with this? Yes. Okay. Then after that, para number 6. Okay, para number 6 is also very, very important here. See, what is this para number 6 talking about? Para number 6 says that any actionable claims, okay, any actionable claims other than lottery, betting, gambling, etc. Okay, one or two simple examples which I can give you for this actionable claims is just like your fixed deposits that you keep with the bank, okay, or promissory notes or bank guarantee, etc. They are telling that these are your actionable claims. These are totally considered as non-supply. Okay, example, when you redeem your FD, okay, when you produce your FD certificate with the bank and you take the money from the bank, that is an actionable claim. Okay, you are asking for the debt from the bank. Then in that case, it is not liable to GST at all. But actionable, then in that case, it is not liable to GST. But lottery, betting and gambling, okay, lottery, betting and gambling, this will be liable to GST. They have specifically told you here actionable claims other than lottery, betting and gambling. So they have kept it very, very clear. Lottery, betting, gambling is going to come under the purview of GST, but actionable claims apart from this, okay, actionable claims apart from this, like unsecured loans, unsecured debentures, bills of exchange, bank guarantee, fixed deposits, etc., these are not liable to GST. Okay, then last 2 points here, everyone, 7th point and the 8th point. Out and out supplies. Okay, 7th point, out and out supply means what? Now let's say you are here sitting here in India, you have one source in US and you have another source in UK. Okay, example, you are purchasing some goods from US and you want to sell it to a customer who is sitting in UK. Okay, you are sitting here in India. You are not bringing the goods here in India. You are going to sell it by sitting in India, you are selling it from US to UK. This is called as, can I say both the transactions are happening in non-taxable territory, means without the goods being entering into India. This type of a transaction is called as out and out supply, that is merchant trading or merchant trading. Okay, this is not considered as a supply for the purpose of, your government cannot make applicable GST, you cannot make GST applicable on this. Okay, and the last point coming up here is 2 points are going to be there here. First one, supply of, now let's say you imported some goods. Okay, you imported some goods, you have warehoused, okay, you have kept the goods in a warehouse at the customs port. Okay, you have not yet cleared it for home consumption, means you have not cleared the goods, you have not paid the custom duty on it, and you have not taken it, brought it to your own godown. Okay, so now when the goods are kept in the customs warehouse only, you have imported, just now it came from the ship or by air, etc., it is kept in the custom bonded warehouse, and from there itself you are selling it to someone. Okay, from there itself you are selling it to someone, so they are telling that, this is not liable to GST. Okay, till the time you have not cleared it for home consumption, means your GST liability cannot get attracted. Okay, means your GST liability cannot get attracted. Very clear with this? Okay, and one more point coming up here is, let's say you have imported some goods. Okay, this is nothing but your, um, uh, I'll just give you an example. If let's say if you have imported any particular goods and the goods are in transit, okay, the goods are in waters, let's say for example, okay, the goods have been dispatched from that particular place, you have not yet received it, okay, you have the invoice ready, means as soon as the goods come to India, you will get the goods cleared. But before the goods reach into India, okay, before the goods reach into India, you sell it to someone else. Okay, means again, can we say this is before clearance for home consumption, you have sold it to someone? Okay, so ma'am, what's the difference between this point and the earlier point? In the earlier one, the goods was already kept in the custom bonded warehouse. Now the goods are in waters. Okay, the goods are in transit, and before you even see the goods, you have sold it. On this also, there is no GST applicable. Very clear with this? Yes. So these are the 8 pointers. These are the 8 pointers which are considered as non-supplies, right? These are considered as non-supplies mentioned, specified under schedule number 3. Can we revise, everyone? What was the first point? First point was any services provided by the employee to the employer in the course of his employment. Don't forget the gift point. Okay, next transaction was any services provided by court or tribunal. Third one was any functions performed by that member of parliament, chairman of any particular establishment, or any person who is holding the post because of any constitution. India's constitution, obviously. Then next point was services provided of funeral, crematorium, burial, mortuary, including transportation of the deceased person. Then para 5 was very, very important. Sale of land will never attract GST, even if it is a barren land or a developed land. And sale of building will not attract GST if entire consideration is received after issuance of completion certificate or first occupation, whichever is earlier. The next point was actionable claims other than betting, lottery and gambling. That will not be liable to GST. 7th and 8th point was about your 7th and 8th point is not actually relevant for CA intermediate students. It has to be referred specifically by the CA final students. So 7th point is talking about what? It is talking about out and out supplies. You are sitting here in India, you are doing merchant trading from one country to another country. And 8th point was you have imported the goods. In one case, you have received the goods, it is kept in the custom bonded warehouse and you have sold it. And in the next case, if the goods are still in transit and before even you receive it, you have sold it to someone else, at that time there will be no GST applicable. Okay, when that person, the person to whom you have sold it, when that person gets the goods cleared for home consumption, at that time custom duty and GST will be applicable on the same. Are you clear till here? Yes. So do you recollect, I told you that there will be 3 parts here. Non-supplies was divided into 3 parts. First one was schedule number 3, then notification and then clarification. Okay, now schedule number 3 is done. Now let's go to notification part. Some supplies are notified as non-supplies. Okay, some supplies are notified, only 2 are notified as non-supplies by way of a notification. See what are they telling. First of all, activity in relation to panchayat, municipality functions, etc. Now, there are certain services, okay, there are certain services which are entrusted, okay, which are given to panchayats under article number 243G. Article number 243G means we are talking about constitution. Or there are some services by way of an activity in relation to a function entrusted to municipality, means we give, the government gives, central government, state government, etc. See the wordings, everyone here. Government is empowered to notify the activities or transactions undertaken by the central government, state government or local authority in which they are engaged as public authorities as the activities or transaction which shall be treated neither as supply of goods nor as supply of services. So any activity which is entrusted to the panchayat or any activity which is entrusted to the municipality, because they have to do such, example, maintenance of roads, maintenance of street lights, etc. These are considered as neither supply of goods nor supply of services. And the next one is talking about grant of alcoholic liquor license. Okay, now alcoholic liquor is totally outside the purview of GST. Okay, now alcoholic liquor is a matter which is still kept with the state governments. Okay, now if you want to sell liquor in any particular state, then you need to take the license from the state government. Yes, now if the government is providing you the liquor license, government will take a consideration. that consideration, okay, consideration only for sale of liquor license, okay, not any other license, that is considered as neither supply of goods nor supply of services. Let's say government gives me a license to extract natural resources, do mining, etc. That is liable. We are talking only about which license? We are talking only about alcoholic liquor license. Okay, so two activities here. Okay, two activities are totally considered. Two activities are totally considered as non-supplies. Okay, first one is any activity done in relation to panchayat or municipality functions, and the next one was grant of alcoholic liquor license. Then the last one, third one was by way of clarification. So this is clarification, means they are telling that logically it is non-supply. If you have any doubt, we have given a clarification to you for the same. Okay, so non-supply is clarified by way of clarification. Just try to understand this, everyone. Now, whenever there is interstate movement, okay, let's say this is a bus. Okay, let's say this is a bus and there are some passengers sitting here, okay, and there are some goods also which is loaded. Transportation happens by way of goods also. Okay, this is the bus. This bus moves from one place to another. Okay, this bus moves from one place to another. Means it is providing services to the passengers. Okay, providing transportation services to the passengers. Normally that is a supply. Okay, that is a supply. But now can we say bus is also moving from one place to another? Okay, let's say bus is moving. It is an interstate bus. It is moving from Maharashtra to Gujarat. Let's say it is going from Maharashtra to Gujarat. Okay, does it mean there is a sale of bus also? No, the bus is going to come back. Okay, it is going to take the passengers from here to here and then it is going to again bring the passengers from here to here. Okay, so here this particular conveyance or this particular mode of transport is just used for the purpose of providing another transportation service. Okay, so here you cannot say that there is a transfer of bus also. Arey, bus is going, but there is no sale of bus that is happening here. So there will be no GST applicable on the value of bus. Okay, GST will be applicable only on the value of services, transportation services provided. Logical? Okay. Then after that, the next one, similarly, interstate movement of rigs, tools and spares and all the goods on the wheels. Okay, now let's take the same example. Okay, let's take the same example. Let's say there is a particular bus. Okay, or let's say there is a interstate, any other mode of transport that is going from one place to another. Can we say generally in the buses, etc., trucks, etc., trailers, etc., we keep some spare parts. We like if suppose there is a breakdown of the vehicle, agar vehicle beech mein kharab ho jata hai, if there is any breakdown of the vehicle, then we can use those spare parts and we can repair, do the repairing, etc. Means the spares travel from one state to another state. If there is no breakdown of the bus, the spares come back again to our state. Means is there any transfer of, there is only a physical transfer of spares, na? There is no sale that is happening. So there will be no GST applicable. Are you clear with this? Yes. Chalo, theek hai. So this was all about your schedule number 1, 2 and 3 and your section number 7. Okay, I'll just show you a summary thing. See if you can recollect with the help of this. Everyone here. We started from section number 7.1a, 7.1 chota a. Everyone here. Can you see this table, everyone? Yes. Now here we are talking about supply. Okay, supply includes what and supply excludes what. First of all, supply includes normal. This was your by default definition. Supply of any goods or services for consideration done in the course or furtherance of business. That was included in section number 7.1a. Okay, then next one. Activities or transaction by a person, that remember joint venture, housing society. So activities or transactions done by any entity with its members, then those two were considered as separate persons, therefore even that will be considered as a supply. Yes, it is done in the course of business and it is done for a consideration. Then importation of services for consideration, whether for personal purpose or whether for any other purpose or for business purpose, even that was considered as a supply. Okay, then the next one, deemed supply. Deemed supply was given in schedule number 1, right? four paras that we did in schedule number 1. Can you recollect what were the 4 paras that we did under schedule number 1? Para number 1 was talking about permanent disposal or transfer of business assets on which input tax credit has been already claimed. Second one was any supply of goods or services between related persons or between distinct persons. Again, all these transactions were without consideration. Okay, all these transactions were without consideration in the course of business, still it will be considered as a supply. Then para 3 was supply of goods by principal to agent or by agent to principal, where that agent has done the transaction on his own account and he has issued the invoice in his own name. And last one, para number 4 was talking about importation of services from my related person or from my establishment outside India, related person outside India or establishment outside India, for zero consideration, but only for the in the course or furtherance of business. Then these four transactions were considered as, even if it were done for no consideration, then too it will be considered as a supply. Okay, then we studied about those excludes. Okay, in excludes 3 parts were there. One was your negative list. Okay, negative list was given in schedule number 3, plus notification was given, plus clarification was given. Okay, in notification we had 2 points. One was that panchayat and municipality functions, and next one was sale of alcoholic liquor license. Okay, then plus clarification was that nonsense point that bus going from one place to another is not transfer of bus. Okay, and in schedule 3 we studied 8 pointers total in schedule number 3. Important pointers in that was employer-employee, okay, then court, tribunal, then sale of land, barren or developed land, sale of building afterwards, right? Then that prime minister, president, etc., if they are rendering any services, any activities, any transactions, any services provided by them will not be considered as a supply, right? Then actionable claims other than lottery, betting, gambling, funeral services, etc. Okay, then after that out and out supplies, merchant trading. Okay, and then the goods were imported but not cleared for home consumption, and before it got cleared for home consumption we have sold it, right? Almost all the points we have revised here in your negative list. Total 8 pointers were there. Okay, and in between these two we did schedule number 2, where we did a bifurcation whether it is supply of goods or services. Okay, I am asking you a few questions, everyone. Works contract service was deemed as supply of services. Then restaurant service was also deemed as supply of service. Okay, then construction services, obviously when it is liable to GST, that is when the entire consideration was not received afterwards, then in that case it was considered as supply of service. Okay, for other points, how can you remember it? If there is any transfer of title, it will be considered as supply of goods. Okay, if you have just given the right to use it temporarily, etc., then it will be called as supply of services. Very clear with this? Chalo, theek hai. Then after that, let's go to the next part, everyone. We are done with section number 7. Yes, and one last small point was there in section number 7, everyone. Yes, here it is. Supply liable for GST. Okay, now first we need to understand whether it is a supply or it is not a supply. Okay, once you come to know that yes, it is a supply, then 2 parameters are mandatory. Okay, I'm not putting so much emphasis here because this you will understand as then when we build our GST, IDT. Okay, so supply should be done by a taxable person. Now, what do you mean by taxable person? Taxable person is either a registered person or a person who is liable. Who has already become liable to get his registration. He should do a supply. And that supply should be a taxable supply. Means it should not be an exempted supply. Remember, I told you in the beginning of the chapter also. Yes. Chalo. Now going on to the last part of the chapter, everyone. Section number 8. Now, what is there in section number 8? Section number 8 talks about composite and mixed supplies. Okay, composite and mixed supplies. Now, what do you mean by composite supply? If the supply has been done by a person. Okay, if I have done a particular supply to a recipient of the supply, and this supply has 2 or more taxable supplies. Okay, I have done a composite supply which includes 2 or more taxable supply of goods or services or a combination of the two to the recipient, and these services are naturally bundled together. Means I have not artificially brought them together. These are generally given together only. and out of these supplies, one of the supply is the main supply, or one of the supply is a principal supply. Then in such a case, such a supply will be called as a composite supply. Ma'am, can you give an example for the same? Yes. Now let's say I am selling you a particular product. Okay, I am selling you a particular product. Let's say AC remote. Okay, and this AC remote is, let's say, for 400 rupees. Okay, along with this, I have charged freight. Okay, transportation, courier charges I have charged from you 50 rupees. So 450 rupees total I am charging from you. Now, here two things are provided. One is sale of AC remote, and the next one is supply of freight services. Transportation services I have provided you. So can we say there is a combination of two or more supplies coming up here? Achha, which of the two is the main supply? Main supply is obviously AC remote. Okay, otherwise there is no use of the freight at all. There is no use of the transportation at all if there is no sale happening there. So the principal supply is sale of AC remote. Such a supply is called as a composite supply. And in this case, okay, can we say the 400 rupees AC remote, that is goods, and 50 rupees that I have charged you, that is for the service that I am providing you, right? That is for the service that I am providing you. Now in this case, can I say I'll be charging total 450 rupees from you? This 450. Now let's say these goods are taxable individually. If we say these goods are taxable at the rate of 18%. Let's say it is taxable at the rate of 18%, and let's say this service is taxable at the rate of 12%. Just an example I am giving it to you. So should we do the calculation separately? They are telling that no. If it is a composite supply, okay, if it is a composite supply, then no need to do the calculation separately. Whatever is the rate of tax on the principal supply, your principal supply is supply of goods. So whatever is the rate applicable on the goods, make that rate applicable on the total amount. So on entire 450, you can tax it at the rate of 18%, as if it is a composite supply. Are you clear with this? Yes. Okay. Okay. Just like everyone here, just like when you book train ticket, okay, and you include meals also in it. Okay, you include meals also in it. Then in such a case, the price that you are paying for the food, can we say that is like train ticket plus food is a composite supply on the entire amount? Whose rate should be applicable? Railway tickets rate of GST should be applicable, because obviously you are not traveling in the train only for the food. Okay, the main purpose there is traveling. Okay, similarly, hospitals, whenever any particular patient gets admitted in the hospital, okay, because he is ill or for curing any particular disease, he gets food there. Okay, generally it is said that inpatients are given the food which has to be taken from the hospital only. Okay, so we are charged for the food also that we get. Okay, so now here we did not go to the hospital for the food. The main supply here was the hospital services. So this is the composite supply on the total amount. The rate which is applicable on the hospital services or the doctor services, that will be applicable. Right? So some examples etc. are given for your reference. You can just refer it once, everyone. Acha, now some clarifications. Okay, this is very, very important. Your CBIC has given some clarification as to what is the principal supply. Okay, as to what is the principal supply, and this is mandatory. We have to follow this anyhow. Okay, now let's say I wanted to get my IDT books printed. Everyone here, okay, I have made the content. Okay, I have made the content. I want to get the books printed. Okay, so I go to a particular, let's say a particular printer. I tell him that I will give you the content and you just print my books. Can I say he's providing, there will be two things here. He will take a paper, on that he will do the printing. Okay, and he will give me the entire book here. So can we say there is a supply of paper also and there is supply of printing service also, right? Now here they are telling that content is given by the author. Okay, content is given by the recipient of the supply. So in this case, the principal supply is the supply of printing. Okay, very simple example which I can give you here is, now let's say I give you this particular book, I give you this particular paper. Okay, is the paper important or the content important there? Obviously the content written on that paper is more important. So they are telling that printing service becomes the principal supply. So whatever is the rate of tax applicable to the principal supply, that should be applicable, right? Acha, then similarly, next one. Okay, next one. Let's say I go to a printer and I tell to a printer that I want some I want some tissue papers. I want some tissue papers on which I want my logo so that I can use. You must have seen in restaurants, etc. It is very, very common thing. So I go to a printer. I tell him that I want content here. I tell him that okay, this is my logo. I want it to be printed on all the tissue papers, on all the envelopes, etc. And you just give it to me. Okay, so he says that okay, I will do the printing and I will give you the. Now then he delivers the entire tissue box to me on which my logo is printed. Everything is proper. Now here, what is important? What is important? Can we say your tissue paper and its usage is more important than the logo? So here they are telling that the principal supply is equal to supply of goods. Okay, here the principal supply is what? Principal supply is supply of goods and printing becomes ancillary here. Okay, printing becomes ancillary here. Are you clear with this? Then food supply to patients. Food supply to patients. I have already discussed about it. The next one, activity of bus bodybuilding. Okay, activity of bus bodybuilding. Okay, let's say there is a particular bus. Okay, let's say there is a particular bus which is not assembled with its cover, etc. Okay, so I take that particular bus to a bus bodybuilder and I tell him that you need to put a cover on it, you need to put the glasses in it, window glasses, etc. on it. So in this case, this particular activity is called as supply of service. Okay, because he, like, more than the parts that he's going to put here, can I say the thing that plays more importance here is the service that he's giving me of building that particular bus. So this is called as supply of, your supply of service will be the principal supply. And then next one, that is rethreading of tires. Okay, rethreading of tires means what? Now there are some revamped now there are some worn out tires. Okay, ekdam purana ऐसा खराब ऐसे tires. Okay, there are some tires and then you go to these people who provide these services and then he does that some work on it and he does the revamping of the tires. So can we say he is doing a rethreading of the tires? So here the principal supply will be the supply of service. He will be using some accessories, he will be using some petty raw materials in it, but can we say his skill is more important here? So this is considered as supply of service. Are you understanding here? Okay, maybe he is using some rubber or he is using some other raw material in making it a good one. Okay, that doesn't matter here. Here the most important thing here is supply of service. Okay, now let's say he does rethreading of tires and he keeps some tires ready and now he's selling the entire tire. What happened in the first one? I had some worn out tires, I took it to him and he did the rethreading and he gave it to me. That was supply of service. Okay, now I go to a tire wala person, I tell him that I want a rethreaded tire. He's selling the entire rethreaded tire to me. Can I say here he is selling the entire goods to me? Then it will be considered as supply of goods. Simple, everyone. Yes. Okay. Going on to the next concept, last concept of section number 8. It is talking about mixed supply. Okay. Just now we spoke about composite supply. In composite supply, which rate of GST was applicable? The rate of GST as it was applicable to the principal supply. Now, what is going to happen in case of mixed supply? Now, when they are telling that when two or more individual supplies of goods or services are combined artificially, okay, are combined artificially and given together, means a conjunction of it is given together for a single price. Okay, artificially you're bringing two things together, you're selling it together for a, like you have made a hamper out of it and you're selling it together. Then in that case, which rate of GST will be applicable? So they are telling that you have purposely brought these two things together, whereas these two things are independent supplies. Therefore, the rate of GST that will be applicable on the total amount will be highest rate that is applicable on the individual items. Okay, let's say nowadays there is a fashion, okay, there is a trend of chocolate hampers, gift hampers, etc. Now I made a gift basket, okay, in which I kept some chocolates, okay, I kept some Lay's wafers, etc. and I kept let's say I kept chocolate and Lay's, etc. in this, okay, and I'm selling it, okay, and I'm selling it, let's say, for 2000 rupees, entire gift hamper, and I kept some sweets, etc. on it, and I'm selling it for 2000 rupees here. Okay, now is it compulsory to sell all the three things together? No. Okay, just like I gave you the example of composite supply, in that I gave you the example of this thing, your sale of AC remote and that freight. In that case, we have to give those two services or two things together. But here it is not mandatory to give these two things, these three things together. We have artificially bundled and we are giving it for an attractive price or whatever it is. So they are telling that on this 2000, now, let's say on chocolate there is a GST applicable of 18%. On Lay's, let's say GST applicable is equal to 12%. On sweets, let's say GST applicable is equal to 5%. So on this 2000, the rate of 18% will be applicable. Here we are not supposed to find out what is principal and what is not. Okay, here whatever is the rate, highest rate applicable, okay, that will be applicable on the total amount. Are you clear with this? Yes, that is so special about the mixed supply. Okay, the main distinguish between the two. In case of composite supply, it was naturally bundled. Okay, whereas in case of mixed supply, it is artificially bundled. Just keep that thing in your mind. Now, in this case, we have many examples given up here. See, canned food, sweets, chocolates, cakes, etc. have been combined together and then we are selling it. Okay, water bottles sold along with refrigerator. Water bottles sold, what combination? You have artificially bundled it together, so it is a mixed supply. Therefore, highest rate will be applicable. In case of mixed supply, just remember, highest rate will be applicable. Whereas in case of composite supply, the rate of GST as applicable on the principal supply, that will be applicable. Okay, so let's start with the amendments. Okay, whatever amendments we are doing here, these amendments are notified by the ICAI and these are applicable from May 24 examination and onwards. Okay, now for this particular chapter, that is for the supply chapter, we have already studied the main contents. Okay, now we are just dealing with the amendments, which are really very simple. Now the first amendment which is coming up here, or clarification we should say by way of a circular which is coming up, is in the definition of the term called as goods. Okay, do you recollect we had done the definition of goods where we had studied that goods means anything which is in form of a movable property but other than money and securities. Okay, now in that specific, but it was including your actionable claim. Now here there are two places where they have given us some clarification. Okay, one is for actionable claim, which we will study later, and second one, okay, the next one, the one which we are going to study on this particular page, that pertains to this securities thing. Okay, we had studied about securities. Securities includes your shares, etc. Yes, so these securities, these were not included in the term called as goods, and these securities were even not included in the term called as services. Do you recollect that? Yes, so whenever there was any trading of securities, on that GST was not applicable. But if let's say there is some brokerage commission charge for trading of securities, then that was coming as a normal service. Therefore, on that GST was applicable. This is what we have been discussing. Right now, here they have just given a they have just come up with a circular and they are telling that. Now you must have obviously heard about holding company and subsidiary company, right? Now can we say holding company is holding some shares, it has acquired some shares in a subsidiary company, or a holding company has acquired some shares in the other company and such other company is called as my subsidiary company. Now does this mean that some services are being provided by holding company to subsidiary company? Obviously no. Okay, this cannot be called as providing of or supply of services by holding company to the subsidiary company. Okay, otherwise normally, okay, forget about this shareholding transaction. Normally, can a holding company otherwise provide some services to the subsidiary? Yes, that is possible. That will be liable under GST. Okay, but if a holding company is holding shares or is acquiring shares in the subsidiary company, then can we say these shares are securities? And if it is security, it is neither goods nor services, so it cannot be called as, okay, activity of holding shares of subsidiary company by the holding company cannot be treated as supply of services, and it cannot be treated as supply of goods because it is not covered in the securities, are not at all covered in the definition of goods. Therefore, this will not be liable for GST. So whenever a holding company is paying some consideration to the subsidiary company and acquiring the securities of subsidiary company, on that GST is not applicable. Okay, this is one such circular that was introduced. Then after that, the next one. Okay, next amendment that we need to see here. Okay, before we see this one, okay, before we see this amendment or the proviso which has been inserted, okay, the proviso which has been inserted in this section, that is definition of supply. Before that, we need to do a few more things. Okay, yes, these three things. Okay, these three things we need to discuss here. Everyone here, can you see here on the board? Yes. Now, there is a definition. Okay, there is a definition which is introduced here called as specified actionable claims. Okay, actionable claim definition already we had studied now, or we already had discussed about that actionable claim. And in that actionable claim, remember, actionable claim was first of all considered as goods. Yes. And in your taxability of actionable claim, till now, betting, gambling and lottery, that was taxable. Remember that we had done in our schedule 3 transactions in that exceptions point. Yes, now see, now related to that, in this specified actionable claim, now they are telling that specified actionable claim means the actionable claim involved by way of betting, gambling, lottery. This was already included in the term called as actionable claim. Few more things which are added here is, one is casinos, then horse racing and online money gaming. Okay, these three things are included. Okay, these three things are included in your actionable claims. Specified actionable claims we can call it as. Therefore, okay, we will study it further. Now, even casinos, horse racing and online gaming, online money gaming, even that has been brought under the purview of GST. Okay, so if someone is providing the services, of casino, someone is providing the service of horse racing, someone is providing the service of online gaming, including online money gaming, etc., then that will be covered now under the purview of GST. We have amendments relating to that, don't worry. Okay, now ma'am, what do you mean by online gaming and online money gaming? Okay, now see, what are they telling? Online gaming, do you normally understand the term online games, etc.? Dream 11. Yes, for example, so online gaming means offering of a game on internet or an electronic network and includes online money gaming. So online gaming is a big term. Okay, online gaming is a big term. Within that, online money gaming is included. Ma'am, what do you mean by online money gaming? Can we say in case of online money gaming, again, it is an online gaming only, okay, in which you deposit some money. Okay, in Dream 11, you do a recharge of 40 rupees, 50 rupees, 100 rupees, example for cricket, etc. You make a team there and then you play, right? And then there is a probability, there is a possibility that you are going to win some amount, right? So now here, online money gaming means online gaming in which the player pays or deposits money or money's worth, including virtual digital assets in the expectation. What do we expect in return? In the expectation that we are going to win some money or money's worth or virtual digital assets. Are you clear with this? Now this performance, this winning probability depends upon your skill, that depends on chances, that depends on luck, etc., etc. Okay, we are not concerned with that. But if there is a particular person who is providing the services of online gaming, including online money gaming, then first of all, that is now considered as actionable claim. And secondly, because of that, that is now covered under the purview of GST. Okay, now ma'am, what do you mean by this virtual digital asset? Have you heard about nowadays the thing which was in trend, cryptocurrency? Have you heard about that? Yes, so virtual digital asset, GST law hasn't given a separate definition. They are telling that go and refer it as per the Income Tax Act. Okay, and just for your reference, one of the examples of virtual digital asset is cryptocurrency, which has got some value and which can be digitally traded. Are you clear with this? Yes. Okay. Now going back to the definition of supplier here, in which a particular proviso has been inserted. Okay. Normal definition of supplier, okay, that we had seen was any particular person who is giving the supply of goods, or any person who is giving the supply of services, or both, and including an agent. Okay, if there is a particular agent who is doing it on behalf of the supplier, then that agent is also considered as a supplier. This we had already studied in the definition of supplier. Okay, now what new proviso has been inserted? The new proviso relates to that actionable claims, etc., that we now studied. Now this supplier term will also include any person who is providing the services of, okay, who is giving that particular this thing, online money gaming, online gaming, etc. See this, provided that a person who organizes or arranges directly or indirectly supply of specified actionable claims, who is giving supply of specified actionable claims, betting, lottery, gambling, your horse races, casinos, online gaming, including, so any person who is directly supplying the specified actionable claims, or any person who owns, operates, or manages a digital or electronic platform, any application, any app, okay, for such supply, shall be deemed to be the supplier of such actionable claims, whether it is supplied by him or through him, and whether the consideration is in money or money's worth, that is equivalent to money, including virtual digital asset, for supply of such actionable claim is paid or conveyed to him or through him, or placed at his disposal in any manner, and all the provisions of the CGST Act shall apply to the supplier as if he is the supplier liable to pay tax. So basically, till now supplier included supplier of goods and services. Now if you are engaged in providing the supply of these specified actionable claims, okay, if you are providing the supply of these actionable claims, then, and if you are managing any particular app, example, if you are managing Dream 11 app, Khelo India Khelo app, etc., whatever, okay, if you are managing that particular application, or you are managing a particular website, okay, through which online gaming, etc., is happening, then you will be considered as supplier who is liable to pay the taxes. Are you clear with this? Yes, supplier is liable to pay the tax, so reverse charge mechanism is not applicable, forward charge is applicable. Okay, that we'll study it ahead. Are you clear till here? Okay, one more, last. Mm. Here, everyone, schedule number 3, for which I had given you the reference. Schedule 3 contained all those transactions which were not considered as a supply, right? Now see here, everyone, just try to understand. In that 6th one, actionable claims. Now see here, what we had studied, actionable claims were included in the definition of goods. Okay, but this para of schedule 3, para 6 of schedule 3 specifically excludes specified actionable claims. Okay, just now we studied the definition of specified actionable claims. Do you recollect the definition of specified earlier what was written, in this para number 6? Actionable claims other than betting, gambling and lottery. Okay, now what they have written, actionable claims other than specified actionable claims. Means what? Those 6 specified actionable claims, that is not coming under schedule number 3. Therefore, those 6 items, betting, lottery, gambling, casinos, horse races and online gaming, those 6 will be considered as a supply. Okay, those 6 will be considered as a supply, and that too it will be considered as a taxable supply. And any other actionable claims, okay, any other actionable claims, they are still covered in your schedule number 3. Therefore, those are considered as non-supplies. Are you clear with this? Yes, see this, co-joint reading of the said provisions implies that only lottery, betting, gambling, casinos, horse races and online money gaming are treated as supply. Only those 6 are treated as supply. All other actionable claims are outside the ambit of definition of supply. Very simple, very logical, everyone. Yes? Okay. And now last amendment in this particular chapter. Last. Yes. In your composite supply. Okay, in your composite supply. Now they had come up with a particular circular where they said that, okay, in this particular circular, they said that supply of food and beverages, okay, food and beverages at cinema halls are taxable as restaurant service. Okay, now listen, whenever you go for watching a movie in a theater, okay, at that time, the most important thing that you do is purchase the movie ticket. Okay, when you are purchasing the movie ticket, can we say the cinema hall is providing you the service of exhibition of cinema? Okay, so they collect the GST from you and then they pay it to the government, normal. Okay, but then during interval or before the movie starts, etc., then in such cases there are food stalls there from where you purchase the food, beverages, popcorn, Pepsi, Coke, etc., you purchase from there. Okay, now for that purpose, now what will be the GST? Okay, what will be the impact of GST on the food items or the beverages items which you are purchasing? Movie ticket is separate. Okay, forget about that. What about the food items that you are purchasing? Now, theaters or cinema halls, generally they have got 2 types of adjustments. One is either they run that particular restaurant or that food joint, or they outsource it to someone else. Okay, but anyway, can we say they collect the money from the general public who come to watch the movie? Now the question that arises here is whenever the cinema hall person is collecting the money for food and beverages, then that should be considered as which supply? Should it be considered as a restaurant supply or should it be considered as a movie ticket supply? So now they are telling that they have clarified that supply of food or beverages in a cinema hall is taxable as a restaurant service. Okay, as long as the food or beverages are supplied by way of or as a part of service, means they are giving you the service of supplying this food and services, and this is supplied independent of the cinema exhibition service. Means cinema exhibition service is considered separate and restaurant service is considered separate. Food beverages is considered separate. If you want, you have. If you want, you don't purchase it. Okay, if it is provided separately, then food and beverages will be considered as a separate restaurant service. Okay, means it will not be considered as a composite supply. Okay, but suppose if the sale of cinema ticket and supply of food beverages are clubbed together. Many a times, I don't know if you have observed it or not, while booking the tickets on Book My Show. Okay, at that time only they ask you, that do you want to book, pre-book the Pepsi, Coke, popcorn, etc. for the tickets. So suppose if you select yes and if you pay for the price of popcorn and Pepsi there itself, means that is the club sale, okay, combined sale of cinema ticket and food and beverages, means these are bundled together. And now can we say here the principal supply, you are not going to go to theater only to have popcorn or Pepsi, right? The principal supply there, okay, the main supply there is watching the movie. So the entire supply, okay, the entire supply will attract GST at the rate which is applicable to exhibition of cinema, that is the principal supply. Are you understanding? But this thing, okay, everything is taxed at one single rate of that movie. This provision will be applicable only when the sale of both the things are clubbed together. Okay, when you buy the movie ticket, let's say movie ticket is 400 rupees, and along with that you are choosing a popcorn of 250 rupees, for example. Okay, and you are totally paying 650. So can we say the cinema hall is collecting total 650? Right? So in this case, whenever it is collecting the 650, this 650 for the cinema hall, it will be taxable as if it is doing a combined supply of exhibition of cinema. And suppose if cinema is taxable at the rate of 18%, so entire 650 will be taxable at the rate of 18%. Are you clear with this? Okay, and suppose first if you purchase tickets from Book My Show, okay, and for that they have charged you 400. So 400 will be taxable at the rate of, let's say 18%. Okay, example, that is the GST rate on exhibition of cinema. And then when you go to the cinema hall, there if you feel hungry and if you plan to have one samosa of 150 rupees, for example, at that time when they are providing you this 150 rupees service, at that time it will be taxable at the rate of restaurant service. Are you clear with this? Okay. Fine, done. Okay, so this was basically the amendment, newly notified amendments which were given in the statutory update of the ICI applicable for May 24 examinations. Yes? Okay.